Hey guys, Rexasaur here and welcome back to Update Monday. It is the 18th of November 2024. Some loud noises happening in this room. A lot has happened in a week. When I did the last Update Monday, I was at work. I've not been at work for the last week because I just didn't feel great. And this is your PSA to, if you don't feel great, to maybe take some time off work so that you can feel better. So I have taken up until I'm back in work on Wednesday. So I took a week off. I took it out of my flexi, which is time that I get when I work over my hours. So for example, if I work 9 till so my hours are 8 till 4. If I work 8 till 5, I get an hour flexi, which I can take as leave in future. And there's a limit of 22 hours carry over either way, so you can be in the positive or the negative. And that allows you to take multiple days leave quite reasonably. So I went from a positive 15 hours, I think, down to a negative 19 hours, I think. I can't remember exactly. I'll see on Wednesday. But that means I'll have to work it over in future. But it's allowed me to recover a bit more from my incredibly stressful period that is trying to ensure that a wedding doesn't get overrun by family and such. Wow, you can see me in my glasses. Anyway. Also, my wife is home and she's enjoying herself immensely. Right, well, other than me being on leave, what happened last week? Well, did some painting of some Space Marine boys, which I then took to Warhammer on Friday. The game was against someone I'd never played before, who'd just not really been playing that long. I hadn't played in at least 4 months with my Space Marines, and at least 2 months Warhammer 40,000. So I was relearning the game a little bit. Not really though. I thought it was gonna struggle more than I did. I don't know why I thought that would be the case. So it was not a close game in terms of the actual scoring. I did very much dominate most of the game due to, I feel like my opponent just wasn't confident enough with his army. He played very defensively, which in Warhammer 40,000 is not really the way you go, unless you've got very specific, like army composition, which he did not have. He had a somewhat balanced to aggressive list, whereas I had a very aggressive list. So him playing defensively allowed me to get enough board presence to dominate the whole game. But it was good. We both had a good time. We had some very fun moments within the game. So, yeah, overall, very good time. Going again next Friday. And then on Saturday, I went up to Merthyr to play Richard. We played some Old World, which is the fantasy variant of Warhammer. And it went very differently than my 40k game. So he was playing a Nomadic War, which is an Orcs and Goblin list. It's fully mounted, which means it's very fast and very dangerous on the charge. And I had a pretty okay turn 1 where I positioned myself so that he had to move up so that I could charge him. He moved up-ish. The thing is, I had a lot of infantry, which means that it doesn't quite work as well. But my big counter, so to speak, was my wizard that would have been able to do quite a bit of damage and also prevent his charges from taking place, and would lock his own wizard down to an extent. But on my turn 2, my wizard miscast his first spell, which was just a spell I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. It's not gonna, what could go wrong? What can go wrong is miscasting, which, so when you cast a spell, you roll 2 dice. And if you roll 2 ones, which means that it's quite unlikely to happen, but it does, when you roll 2 ones, you do a miscast, and that can have various effects, which you roll again on a table. And the roll that I got was just that the spell goes off wonderfully, but you can't cast any more spells for the rest of the turn, which was pretty shit. It meant that my potential counter just was non-existent, so I was in a bad position there. And then I charged my lord, my general, into his giants with the intention of killing the giant and running into his wizard that was right behind. However, his giant had been protected by a spell, which meant that he had 5-up ward saves, so every time he was to take damage, he rolled a dice for every damage that he takes, and on a 5 or a 6, he would negate that damage, and he rolled a lot of them, which was very unfortunate for me, because it meant I got locked in combat, and the lord that I had was very aggressive, very offensive, and not very good in a defensive. So my intention was to kill him before he swung at me, but he swung at me and I took a lot of damage, and then the following turn his general got into mine, and it just didn't go well. So very unfortunate, and it kind of just went downhill from there up until it didn't. There was, by the end of turn 3, no, later, by the beginning of turn 3, by the beginning of my next turn. So after I'd done my charges, he'd done his whole turn. I was down, so if the points is how we score, so 2,000 points. So it means that every unit you kill is allocated a certain amount of points, up to 2,000. And he had 1,200 or 1,300 points by the start of turn 3, which is not even halfway through the game. And I was on 50. So yeah, it was not going well, but I managed to claw it back somewhat. My wizard behaved himself, and I got very, very lucky in managing to take out his wizard, which gave me so much opportunity in the later game. But by that point, I think the game, the only way it was going to end was either a draw or a loss. It was never going to be a win for me. I don't think I could ever have salvaged that, because my lord is such a aggressive, such a pivotal powerhouse of my army, and my infantry was never going to be able to deal with his cavalry. So either way, good game. I lost, but it was a good game. I very much enjoyed it, and it was great to put my chaos, my fully painted army on the field, of which I will not be putting any pictures up because I cannot be bothered right now. I might do a future video about it, about my whole army. But yeah, so I am rethinking my list and strategy. I already know what I want to bring next time. It should be a fun list. But I know now what to expect in terms of a full cavalry army. I'm pretty sure I got some rules wrong in terms of dice for charging. There were several rules that I got wrong there, and we're still learning. There's a very complicated game system, so still learning. But that's Warhammer. Outside of that, I have been on last Wednesday, had some friends over, and we played a role-playing game called Vaesen, which I'm really enjoying. The game system, so it's a game system set in a alternate Victorian era Scandinavia. That's when it's set. But we're using the expansion that's set in the British Isles around the same period. So we're talking late 1700s all the way to late 1800s. And our story is happening in 1860. The idea of the game is that you are playing a character who has the sight and is able to see these folklore-like creatures, which are called Vaesen, which is a Scandinavian term for folklore creatures, fae, all of this stuff. But obviously this is set in Britain, so they're still called Vaesen because of the game, but it would be things like trolls and goblins and this kind of stuff. And we're currently going through an adventure. I really, really enjoy this role-playing game because it is a D6 based system, and the way it works is that you have stats that are numbered, and whatever your number is how many dice you roll when you test against the stat, and on a roll of a 6 you succeed, regardless of if you're rolling 1 dice or 19 dice. As long as you get 1 6, you succeeded. There are certain in combat where it's opposed 6s, so the game master will roll his dice and you will roll your dice, and you need to get more sixes than them. But other than that, it's a very basic system, which means that the role play is really, really heavy, and we just having such a great time. We mess about a lot, but in a communal way. Obviously, there's certain games where you don't want to have just people messing around, mocking like the game system or like the time period. But I think because of the group that we really enjoy just taking the piss out of what's happening or making references like all the time. So the plot is advancing not very quickly, but we're having a lot of fun, and it is still advancing. We're at a really cool moment now where we're like getting to the like big inciting incident of like, okay, we're finally going to know what's going on. So give it a look. It's I think it's similar to Call of Cthulhu in terms of like you're investigating paranormal supernatural activities, but it's very different to Call of Cthulhu in that it's not really about... No, it is a bit about becoming insane, but there's less tests. There's less like rigorous D100 rollings and all of this stuff. Combat is still deadly invasive, still supernatural. You can still go crazy. There's a really cool mechanic where you can push a roll. So if you roll badly and you want to roll again, you can do so, but you take some kind of behavioral change. So you become angry, you become scared, you become frightened, you become like depressed, and then you have to take in-game time to like relax and like get rid of those. So it's really interesting because it leads to a lot of really cool role-playing times. So we had a moment where we were trying to interact with this individual who was stonewalling us, and my friend rolled badly. So he was like, I'm getting really frustrated, so I think I'm going to push this so that I roll again, but I'm going to get angry. And it made sense in the moment that he would get angry because this person's stonewalling, rolls again, still failed, but it was very fun. Yeah, that's Vaesen. Really enjoying that. In terms of video games, I have finished Mafia. I got all the achievements for Mafia, the definitive edition. It took me not as long as I think the guides that I was following near the end were saying it would take. I really enjoyed the story. The plot was amazing, and also the collectibles were really easy to get. Not really easy, but like they weren't difficult to get to. There was one where you needed to get a car really fast up a ramp, and then you need to exit the car before the car falls off the building that you land on. But other than that, they're all obtainable in a very easy way, which is not the case in a lot of games where like it's like, oh yeah, get all these collectibles. The collectibles are randomly generated in these sections, or get all these collectibles, you need to do XYZ, like really difficult maneuver to get to it, which is frustrating. So don't have to do that. So yeah, Mafia, really good. I don't even remember if I had completed it last week when I did my update Monday. I think I was nearing the end. But yeah, really good story, really enjoyable. I will probably do Mafia 2 at some point in the future, but I have fallen into Stardew Valley at the moment. With the new update 1.6 came out. Hannah has been playing it on the Switch, and that's just made me want to play it on the computer. So I've been doing that. It's also a nice chill game. Been enjoying myself, although the normal Stardew Valley frustrations are coming through, such as why the fuck is Pierre closed on a Wednesday, and why does Marnie not man her stand like for half the month where she decides to do other things, which is annoying when you really want this one item. I also had a moment today where I was trying to build a silo, which is where you store your hay for your animals, and I needed clay, and it needed 10 clay, and I was maybe like 60 plus days in game, so every day ticks over, and I only had 8 clay, and I was like, what the hell happened here? How do I have no clay? So that was fun. But yeah, Stardew Valley, good game. Frustrating at times, but otherwise really chill. Yeah, that's that. Gonna do some squash later. Did some squash last week. That was fun. Getting back into that. Gonna be doing some painting tomorrow with my brother. and then back to work on Wednesday, which should be better. Last Monday was very, very difficult. I went in, I was really tired. I did my work. I did a lot of work. Tuesday as well. So Monday I went into the office and I was like, I'm not feeling great. And then the intention was to go into the office on the Tuesday, but I had a really bad night. I woke up feeling really nauseous around 3 o'clock, and I just couldn't get back to sleep. And when I woke back up, it was like 5 to 8, which is when I start work. So I was like, fuck. So quickly turned on my computer and logged in and stuff like that, and told my manager I need to take some time off because I'm really not feeling it. But I worked Tuesday. I worked it with less stress, knowing that I had that whole week coming. I was able to work it, but it was the first time in a while that I was doing an actual complaints case, because up until now I've been doing a lot of bereavement, which is dealing with estates of people who've passed away. And the complaint was, it took me like 3 hours to do this complaint, because it wasn't particularly difficult, but it had a lot of substance to it, and it made me remember that I really enjoy doing complaints, and that the bereavement side of thing is easy work, but it's like draining in a different way. It's like, before working for where I work, I used to work in a restaurant, and when you are, and it made me remember that, like the amount of how tired I got from working there, just because you're always constantly doing things that aren't difficult to do, but you're constantly doing them. Like, you're always dishes out, dishes in, washing the dishes, dishes out, dishes in, washing the dishes, dishes out, dishes in. Like, just, they're constant. It's not difficult to serve food to people around you, to then take it back to the kitchen, wash it when there's time between them. It was a small restaurant. They didn't have a specific dishwasher, if you were wondering. Yeah, so weird shit. Other than that, so I'll be working back on Wednesday, which should be better. I will be still doing bereavement work, but I'm going to be doing that until Christmas anyway, and it's not a problem. It means that when I go back to complaints work, I think I'm going to have a better appreciation for it, because it is an aspect of it that I don't want to say I really enjoy the job, because it's complaints. Like, very rarely do you have like, oh, this is really fun, haha, but there's an element of really interesting complaints, like when you're investigating something, like, why has this gone wrong, what can we do, this person has either misunderstood what we've done, and I've got to lay out exactly what's happened from the day that they think it went wrong to now, so that I can know if it went wrong and tell them when, or if it didn't go wrong and tell them what's happened and where maybe they've misunderstood that information. I just really enjoy being able to give that information, to find that information and lay it out. Really fun, sure, but yeah, it's something to do that passes the time in a way that pays me. Other than that, yesterday was Sunday, which is a weekly D&D day, where I'm playing with a regular group. I am the DM for this one, and we had a very fun session, where a lot of people making some very interesting quotes, from which on the quote channel of my Discord, but also just generally just really interesting things happening, and then ending on something that I was like, oh god, I'm not prepared for anything like this, so I've got to prepare myself for that. But it was wildly amusing to see that come out of thin air, and there was a point where one of the characters was just like, I'm trying to summon a necromantic god, and it's like, that's not how I, as the DM, remember it, but sure. Well, it's not wrong, I guess. But the way that it was put out, all the players were like, excuse me? That's what you're trying to do? So, fun table drama. Yeah. That's basically it. That's my week. My week ahead is looking pretty okay as well. I got Warhammer on Friday, where I'm going to be playing a smaller game against my friend Andrew. He's going to be playing his Guard, which is his new army, so looking forward to that, because I never played against Guard other than once against Andrew, but it was a much smaller game then, so this is a step up, playing 1500. And then Saturday we got D&D, and then Sunday we got D&D. Should be good. And then, is it next week? yeah, the next week we start doing other Christmas festivities. I've got Christmas meal with some of my team. Following week a Christmas tea meal. It's Christmas time. That's what it is. Anyway, I hope everyone is doing okay. Take a moment to think about your mental health. If you're feeling overwhelmed, do you need time off? It's okay. You're allowed to do that, especially if you're in Europe, where you have time allocated to do that. And if you're not, take a sick day. Mental health is physical health. Yeah, hope you guys are all good, enjoying your video games or your books or your movies or your series that you're watching, and I guess I'll see you next week with a brand new edition of Season 2 of Update Monday. Bye.